Hello, chess fans. This is Rick from Chess to Progress, a channel that is devoted to beginners and improving players. Apart from YouTube videos, I also do chess tuition online. If you're interested, you can email me at classroomchess@gmail.com. And following the online sessions, I send my students a little video on a game that we played in a training session. And I'm posting those here as well on Chess to Progress for you to watch, enjoy, and hopefully learn from it. Hey Ronan, this is Rick. I want to thank you for our first training session. I really enjoyed working with you. At the end of the session, we played a little game against each other, and we only had a few minutes left after the game to go over the game and see what happened. So I said I'll make a little video to give you some pointers or where and how you could have improved your play. So let's have a look at the game we played. You had the white pieces and you opened with the D pawn. After the game, you told me that you got the colors mixed up and that in fact you were planning to start with the f pawn with f2, f4. And you told me you wanted to go after the f7 square. And that makes a lot of sense. The f7 and the f2 squares are the weakest squares on the chessboard. From the starting position, you can see that they're only protected by the king. That's the only piece that's protecting that pawn. And there are many games possible where indeed the f7 or the f2 square gets attacked by the other player. One famous example is to open with the e pawn, then if black plays e5, then bishop c4, bishop c5, all okay for the moment, and then white can play a move like queen h5. It's not a great move in itself, but it has a big threat because now white is attacking that f7 square with two pieces. And if black is not careful and plays a silly move like knight c6, then queen takes f7 would be checkmate on move 4. This is called the scholar's mate. So that's an example where indeed you can ambush the f7 square. But back to our game, you opened with the d pawn. That's a good move, putting a pawn in the center. I did the same. You played b3, and normally that move is played to put the bishop on b2, develop the bishop that way. Knight f6, g3, and again, that's a good move, mostly followed by the bishop then to g2. Bishop f5, you played e3, e6, a4, and for the first 5 moves in the game, you have made pawn moves. All your pieces are still on the back rank, and if you look at black, black already has got a knight and a bishop into the game. So one of the things I'd like you to take away from this is to make sure you put your pieces into the game as early as possible. In this case, you made probably too many pawn moves. Not bad moves, but you did not put your pieces into play. I played bishop e7, putting another piece into the game. You gave a check, your first move with a piece, that's good. I kicked the bishop back, bishop e2, I castled. You played knight f3, that's a very good move. Knight towards the center, good move, Ronan. I developed my other knight, you castled, another good move. Put the king safe in the corner, nicely tucked away. I played rook c8, h3, and that move is not a good move for the simple reason that that pawn can be taken by my bishop. So before you make a move, make sure the move is safe. In this case, h3 is not a bad move in itself, apart from the fact that that pawn can just be taken. I played a6 instead of taking the pawn, and now a move like king g2 is good to give that pawn protection, but you played e4, and that's another move that is not safe because that pawn can be taken, and I took it, and you cannot recapture. So before you make a move, always make sure the move is safe. You don't just give away something. I'm attacking your knight. You played knight h4. I played rook e8, getting the rook centralized. You played knight c3, good move, developing the knight towards the center. I like that move. I played knight b6, and you kicked the knight with a5. I went to d5 with the attacked knight, and now you have to be careful because I'm attacking your knight on c3. One way to get out of that is to play bishop b2. That bishop wanted to go there anyway, and is protecting the knight that way. That would be a good move, solving one problem of the attacked knight by developing a piece at the same time. Another thing you could have done is just take my knight on d5. That's another way to get out of an attack. Take the piece that is attacking you. In the game, you played king h2. You had not seen that your knight on c3 was hanging, as we call it. I could have taken it, winning a full knight. I did not do that. I played queen d7. You played f3. I took, you recaptured, and rook c2 d8. Rook e1, you still had not spotted that your knight on c3 was hanging. I played h6. And again, a move like bishop b2 makes sense here to protect the knight, but you played rook a4. I played queen d6, and now you make a good move. Bishop a3, bringing that bishop into the game and attacking the queen at the same time. In this case, the queen taking on a3 is not a good move because you recapture with your rook and you've won a queen for a bishop. So I had to flee with my queen. I went back to d7. You played rook e2, and now I took on a3 with the bishop. You recaptured, and I played b5. And in our second training session, we'll come back to this point because I told you that there is one rule in chess that I have not explained to you yet, the en passant rule. You told me you had not heard of it, so we'll cover that. We'll go back to this position in our second training session, and then I'll show you that move. In the game, you played rook e5, and I could still have taken a knight, but instead I played b4. And that's also a good move because it is a fork. That's another tactical shot, as we call it. These are tactics, taking things or putting threats in a position that are called tactics, as opposed to strategy, which is putting your pieces into play, putting your king safe. So there are two components in chess, strategy and tactics. And this is a tactical shot because that pawn gives a fork. It's attacking two pieces at the same time, and you can only save one at a time. It probably would have made sense to save the rook because the rook is worth more than a knight. The rook is worth about 5 pawns and a knight about 3 pawns. I realized that we did not go over that, so that's another thing we'll cover in our next session. Instead, you saved the knight. I took the rook and you took back. Black is now a rook up. I played rook b8. Rooks like open files, and that rook has a nice open file to look at. You played king g1. I played rook b7. I want to put my second rook behind the first rook to have 2 rooks on that half open file. You played queen b1, rook e2 b8 as planned, bishop e2, attacking the pawn on a6, which is unprotected, and I spotted that, and then I played knight b4 to protect the pawn that way, so you cannot take it. If you take it, I'll take your bishop. And another tactical motif in chess is if you want to take something but it's protected with a piece, then you can chase that piece away that is protecting the piece that you want to take. And in this case, you played c3, and that is a good move. The idea is good. You want to kick that knight away so you can take the pawn, because if the knight plays, the pawn will be unprotected. We call that removing the defender of the a6 pawn. But unfortunately, this move is not possible as it hangs the queen. The bishop on f5 is now attacking the queen, and that's what you had missed. I played knight b to d5 instead of taking the queen, and now that pawn on a6 is hanging. But more importantly, you should have saved your queen with a move like queen e1, bringing the queen to safety, but you played instead b4. I took on c3. I did not take your queen, attacking your queen again, and now you saw that your queen was attacked and you played queen b2, the queen to safety, good move. I took on e2 with check. The thing is, if you are material up, it is often good to swap pieces. That will make the task to win the game easier. You recaptured, and I took on b4, getting my rooks into your position. You played knight f3. That's a good move, Ronan, bringing the knight back into the game. Excellent move. The knight was not doing much there on the rim. I played rook b2, attacking your queen. You saw that and brought the queen to safety. And I played rook a2, b3. It's another tactical motif, a double attack, attacking the queen and the knight at the same time. You saved your queen. Yes, indeed. I played queen b7, planning to infiltrate with my queen into your position. And you played g4. And this move I really like. Well done. White is lost as he is too much material down. His only option is to go on an all-out attack against Black's king. Unfortunately, black is too solid on the king side and is making quick progress on the queen side, so white's attack will not lead too much, but the idea that you had here was very good. You're attacking my bishop, I saved the bishop, and you played h4, again going for an all-out attack with your pieces. It's white's only chance. I took on a3. Here I remember that I thought I better finish this game off quickly before white's attack makes too much progress. You played g5, attacking the knight. I took, and you recaptured with the rook. And rook a2, a2. Two rooks on the second rank are very strong. Knight d2, I brought my queen into the attack. Queen f3, I took the knight, you played rook g2, and the game is over now in a few moves. Let's see how the game finished. I took on g2, you had to recapture, rook takes check, king f1, I played the rook back out of the reach of the king with a threat of checkmate with either rook b1 or rook a1. There's really nothing you can do against it. You only have a few pawns left. You played h5, and I played that move, and the game was over. In this game, strategically, you played quite well. The fact that you oversaw a few, as we call them, tactical concepts is only logical. That comes with time, experience, and practice. Ronan, I'd like you to take 3 things away from this game and from our first training session. The first one is remember that you want all your pieces to play. They all want to be at the party. Maybe not so much the queen in the opening, as she can be chased away quite easily by the enemy pieces, but the bishops, the knights, and the rooks all want to play a role in the game as quickly as possible. The second thing is, when you play a game, take the time for your moves, even if your opponent plays quickly. Make sure you take some time to look at your options and make sure that the move you make is safe. That is, that you don't leave something unprotected that your opponent can take. I played quite quickly in the game and you did the same, but I guess if we do this again, take a bit more time for your moves to make sure the moves are safe. The third point I want to give you is that the center of the board is the crucial part of the battlefield. When you bring your pieces into the game, let them be in the center or aim at the center as much as possible. Ronan, I really enjoyed our first training session and I'm looking forward to the second one. See you soon. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can also check out my main channel called Chess to Impress, where I also post a lot of material. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. This is Rick for Chess to Progress. Thank you for watching.